here? What did I do to get here? Somehow I made the wrong turn.
Welcome to Life in Focus with Bill Pyatt. Today, this is a continuation of what we talked about earlier, how a man has to be able to raise money, or even a woman who's ever hit a household. And sometimes both parents got to work in order to feed the family. And we said there was three different ways to do it. One of the ways was through education. The other way was through trade school. And the other way, or the third way, is through owning your own business. Our guest today, he works at a job, and he also started a successful business. And his brother Jaramillo, Xavier Jaramillo, he's our guest today, and he will let us know how, when, and what the pitfalls are, what the things to look out for in starting a new business.
Hi, I'm Chef Xavier Jaramillo. I'm currently actually a logistics supervisor for Detroit Public Community School District. I'm formerly the executive chef for Spectrum Juvenile Justice Services. I have a bachelor's degree from Aquinas College. Born in Jamaica and grew up in New York City. I own Zave's Catering, and I own a food truck called Zave's Jammin' Caribbean Fusion. Full service catering. I teach Serve Save also statewide, and I'm also a member of the leadership board for Detroit Restaurant and Lodging Association.
Okay, could you tell us a little bit about how you got started in business, and when and how the logistics of it? So, for example, when was the right time or the wrong time? So if I'm sitting at home right now today listening to us, what advice can you give me about wanting to start my own business? I want to start it. I just don't know how. I'm not sure whether I should quit my job and go full time into this business. When and how, where I, and the other thing too is, who should I look to for support when I start a business?
So if you're married, you had to get in contact with your spouse, and then as a Christian, we had to go to the Lord too to see it, make sure are we making the right move, put together a game plan. Find our ideas together. You know, what kind of business do you really want to start? You know, is it going to be cooking, just only catering? Is it going to be in a specific building? We grew from just catering and slowly built up to the financing to get a food truck. And so from there, we look to see what happens, where the next step is going to be. But together, we made those decisions, knowing that financially it's going to affect both of us, not just myself.
Now, the one thing is this, okay, everybody may have a passion, but does your passion always equate to a good business? I mean, what should I look at in terms of, if I'm going to go in business, how do I decide if this business I'm thinking about doing or starting is one that will make money and be able to support my family one day?
You got to do your research. You can't just be only good at one thing and expect it to be successful unless you have that one thing that's so unique that everybody gonna no one else has it, right? The chicken and waffles. You think you're the best at chicken and waffles, but until you test the waters, you won't even know. You can't just go broad jump right into it.
So how did you test the waters?
Catering. I did this catering. I was catering not just Caribbean dishes. People thought because I was Jamaican, I was only gonna do Jamaican, Caribbean, and Jamaican dishes. I had to build my repertoire. I went to culinary school and learned classic French cuisine. So I learned all that, incorporated that into my catering, and used that to push everything forward. So now I do a mix of anything.
So would you say then there's a component of education that needs to go with starting the business?
Definitely a point of education. You don't have to be formally educated, but you've got to get somebody to mentor you and see, am I going to go on this right path? Whether it be culinary school or take them classes, one or two classes, to see, okay, this is actually how a cake is made from a recipe, not just how I'm making it from home.
Okay, so now I know let's take a real some business I've seen start up before, like detailing cars. I want to go out and detail a car. How do I decide where to put my detail shop at, and if I even should open up a detail shop? What factors do I look at?
You gotta look at the factors. Do you want to be a mobile detailer or a building? In building, you're gonna have a lot of utilities to pay, and then think about that. I know a detailer guy right now who decided he had to work for himself because he came out of the penitentiary, and he decided if no one's going to hire me because of my background. So he became a mobile detailer and slowly built his repertoire up by saying, this is going to be a fit for me. I got to find a vehicle. I got to find out where my finances is going to be coming from to start the business up, find somebody willing to support that. And then he's really started off through word of mouth and social media. He just posted a day ago that he just received a contract for 55 semi-truck trailers for them to be cleaned annually for him to do. Just this one contract.
Okay, so that now he's on his way.
Now he's on his way.
So how did he get there? I mean, how did he decide? How did he find someone that's willing to finance him, or did he have to go out and work first and save a certain amount of money?
He had to go out and work first and save his money up. He had a couple family members that supported him at the beginning, and I met him through his brother. Mm-hmm. So he got to find the right people to stick around with. He knew he couldn't use the folks from his past because that's how he ended up where he was in the first place.
So my question is this: in your business, you have two of them. You have a food truck, and what was the other one?
I have a food truck and catering, and I balance teaching food safety statewide also. So
what made you decide? So it sounds like what you did was you have a job that you work at full time, and you also work at your catering, and you also work at your food truck. So what is your formula? What did you do first? You started off doing what? What was number one?
Number one was I felt I needed to get a formal education in culinary. I had a bachelor's degree already, but I needed to learn, the basics of what the five mothers, what these sauces are. What are these sauces people are making? I made it at home. Mm-hmm. Then I learned finances. How do I handle my money while doing the catering company? So I built the catering company first, built a nice, strong clientele. From that clientele, I launched the food truck.
And how did you build your clientele? Now, well, first of all, how important was it to you to have your spouse on board?
Oh, it's 110% important. If I didn't have my spouse on board, I wouldn't be able to accomplish all the things I could accomplish.
And you're also raising a family, so how did that affect your daughters?
Quite a bit. There were sacrifices. My wife she was helping with the kids while we built the business. Still to this day, if I have to take care of business stuff, we talk about it and see what we need to do, who's doing what. A lot of times I won't be able to take the kids somewhere, but I usually still be at their event, and then I run to my catering event. It's a rarity that I miss any of their activities still.
So one question, do you get much sleep?
About 6 hours. I get 6 to 8 hours. If it's a festival weekend, it's probably 4 hours a night because we got festival weekends are long. They expect you to be, when they come for food trucks, you have to be back on site at a certain time. You're leaving at 2 o'clock, and you have to go back and cook all that food all over again and be back on site at by 11 o'clock.
Now, I'll be frank with you. I used to own a business at one time. And what I remember about it, especially when I started out, was working full time on a regular job and then doing the business after hours. So usually for a while, I was getting maybe 45 hours sleep a night, maybe sometimes not that, because if I had a due date for a client, then sometimes I would just go 24 hours. But I was a young man then. I don't think I could do that now.
I know I can't do that right now.
So the best time to start a business is when you're young. Would you say if I'm a young man or a young lady that to start the business before or after I get married, or is it okay to start and be married and then start your business and you work at it together? But now here's the other thing. Should you wait to have your kids before you launch your business, or should you let your business go for a little bit, get on its feet, and then have your kids, or can you do all three?
And that's a conversation you and your significant other going to have. They may have met you when you already started the job. Mm-hmm. Okay, I was already cooking a lot for my wife, but I wasn't doing too much catering. Okay. Once she saw the passion in me, she pushed me along and said, "You need to take this further than what you're taking."
Okay. And in other words, she was the driving force of you getting started.
So we chose to we started to launch a business, and then we started having kids.
So one question: does she like to cook? Or is she just like, that's your thing?
She's starting to like to cook now.
But see, you're saying she's starting. So some tells me at the beginning she wasn't trying to cook.
She wasn't doing much cooking, but she is now. She cooks for the kids, cooks for us at home when we need it. And we're looking to launch another food truck soon, and that's actually the one that she's gonna be running.
Okay. So then it sounded like what you did was you both had full-time jobs, raising kids, making sure your bills were being paid, and then took your extra money and then started doing things on a small level till you start slowly building your clientele. Did you start that? Where did you first find your first set of clientele? Was it at the church or was it at some kind of other events? I mean, where did you?
First ones I believe were at different churches,
Mm-hmm.
and as different churches grew, pastors split in different places, and so I still had the same client from different those same churches, and then from word of mouth from different nonprofit organizations, and then during the holidays I would launch big catering events, so that I would gain more clients from that.
Okay. So was it an element of volunteer work in there for a while, where you sometimes you would do something just
Yeah,
to get
there was definitely an element of volunteer. You got to donate some to eventually get some,
just so they get to know you.
just so they get to know you.
So in other words, you might have cooked for free a couple times just to get your food in somebody's face.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. Now, do those same principles still apply to other types of businesses?
It does. You'll see. That's why some companies donate items or services throughout the year to set a certain budget aside just for that, so that it's a way to promote your business and to grow your business at the same time.
Okay. Now, I notice with some people, sometimes it's one spouse or the other. So, if I'm a young man and my wife wanted to do a business, I should be fully on board with her, ride or die with her.
Ride or die, support her and see how far it goes, or support him, see how far it goes, and support each other. You got ups and downs these business ventures, and the important thing is to communicate with each other and keep pressing forward in that original plan that y'all put together. And see how far it goes.
So in other words, it's like a common goal. And so I know a lot of couples today don't really have common goals. They don't really come together like that.
They need to come together in order to be successful. It's not a one-man show once you're married.
Okay. Now, the other thing too is this: how important is it that you get an accountant in the beginning?
Oh, it's important. We've had the same accountant from day one. She's watched the growth the entire time. So we reach out to her throughout the year to keep us grounded, make sure, because some business, with business, you still got to make sure you pay your taxes at the end of the year. Sometimes you get paid quarterly just to keep it the IRS happy, and see if you have a gain or a negative after each tax year.
Now, I know with my wife's business, when we first started with hers, we were required to pay once a year because we didn't make that much money. Then after we started making a certain amount of money, then we were required by law to file every quarter. Now in the beginning, we couldn't afford an accountant, so we kind of did it ourselves. Can you tell a person who can't afford an accountant but they're still starting their business, what is it they can do to make sure that their records are straight so that they don't get burned? Because I do know that sometimes the worst thing that can happen to a business is to fall behind on their taxes.
Yeah, don't fall behind. You got to keep track of your expenses. The digital expenses, track it all so that you find out what tax bracket you're in, because you're paying personal taxes. So from that point, you can find out what your personal bracket is, so that say you brought in $100,000 in income from the business that year, you can figure out if you're a 20% bracket or 15% bracket.
How do you do that?
Go on to IRS.com. Go on IRS and they'll tell you what bracket you're in, depending on how much
you're making. How much money you're making, and they'll tell you
how much you need to prepare yourself to pay your taxes for it.
So that's something they can do for free.
That's something you can do for free.
I know. So you were saying, so basically, for example, you tell them that they need to track things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean you keep it in a book, you handwrite it, or do you? How do you track
you get an Excel. I'm big on Excel and Google Sheets, so you track it all on that way. You can see have a weekly meeting with your spouse and say, hey, this is where we're at right now. This is what happened this week. We had ups and downs. You got to track it, and you track it for you weekly or annually, so you have something to bring for your taxes at the end of each year.
My other question is, how do you decide on what price your product or service should be?
You got to survey the environment you're in. You can't go selling catfish for $5 when everybody else is selling it for $15.
So how do you know? But see, all right. Now I know, like with me and my wife, when she did her business, she had what she called a bottom line price. That no matter what, she would not go below, because if she went below it, she would lose money. And I know, and sometimes what she would do is if things were selling for less than her bottom low price, she just wouldn't be bothered with that particular business, because she says she's not working for free and she's not going to pay for someone else's wedding.
Yep. So
did that?
Got to do a cost analysis. Is it worth me going to do it? Right now, when I first started, you would hit that medium line, but now I set a set price and said this is what it is. I'm not going to really go any further than that. And if they're not willing to use you go to that cost, I move on.
Now, recently talking about a cost analysis, and I know what you mean by cost analysis, but for someone who's listening in and you're seriously thinking about a business, what is and how do you do a cost analysis?
Like Google be your friend, put it up. Just kidding. You put up cost analysis, you break down how much your expenses are when you're buying for that product. I know you use catfish earlier. A case of catfish is $55. So you got to figure out, I'm paying $55 for it. How much is it going to cost me to prep it? And
well, give me an example of what your cost would be. And let's use catfish, right? I'm about to cook some catfish. So what are my expenses?
You got catfish, you got the oil, you got the batter, you got your labor, and where you're going to put it in. Those are all things you got to decide on how you're going to, because even the pans you put it in, if you're using disposal pans. Mm-hmm. So you got to cost all that out. Say it may cost $100 just for those supplies.
Okay. But now what about the gas on the stove?
That's what that. Yeah, you got to put all that in place. It may takes you an hour to fry them, so you can do a DTE can analyze you and tell you how much you spend on a monthly basis. Break it down. If it's 30 days in that month, you're cooking in that kitchen 8 hours out of the day. How many hours of the day? It's a 24-hour day. Divide that. You divide it, and you figure how much gas might use in a day. So
in other words, then you look at it and you say my gas bill is 30. Let's say my gas. Let's use even numbers, 100, right? It's easy to divide. So my gas bill is $100 for the month, and I cooked 25 days out of that month. So that would be what? How many times does 100 divided by 25? So that's 4. So that's 40 cents or whatever per catfish, right? I mean per day, $4 per day. Yep. And then so that's it. I got $4 per day. I've cooked 20 catfish, so that would be 4 divided by 4 divided by 20. $4 divided by 20. That's how much I have to add on to the cost of that catfish.
Yes.
Then I would take the flour. If I can get 100 catfish out of flour, then I would say, okay, the cost of flour divided by 100. That's another cost I would add on to that catfish. So the best way to do that I can think of is probably through Excel.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you a big favor. Do you think you can put together an Excel sheet for us and we can load it on our website so people can download it so they can use it to price out whatever product or service that they're going to do?
I can do that.
Okay, sounds good. So what else would you tell them they need to look at?
Gotta have a business plan in place. You can nowadays there's so many different sites you can utilize to make business. But even the government, I think I found one. Even the government has a site you can utilize now.
Okay. If you can pull up that site, let me know when you got it, and we'll show it on the screen so people can get it. They can go to that site themselves.
Let's see if I can find it here. Here it is, I think. Yeah, business plan right here.
Okay, you show the screen? So let's go to this site, and you can look at business plans.
U.S. Small Business Administration gives you a process how to write your business plan. You don't have to pay anybody to do it. They provide all the resources for you here. And it helps you calculate your cost also on this site. So it's a U.S. Small Business Administration. The government is providing these resources for you for free.
Now, I know when our business ended, the one thing we forgot to do and that we didn't do, and then hindsight is 2020, the lawyer we got when we were trying to end everything said first thing he asked us for was, "What's your exit strategy?" We looked at him with scratching the head like, "What do you mean exit strategy?" And then he told me, he said, "Okay, every person going into business should have an exit strategy. Your exit strategy, and correct me if I'm wrong, should say, okay, if we're successful and we want to end the business, this is how we do it. If we're having problems and the business is not being successful, this is how we should do it." And so they're saying he's just certain things that should be in that exit strategy to let you know when it's time to quit, so that you don't lose your shirt, so that you don't go south, that you can leave even if it's not successful with keeping the shirt on your back. Mm-hmm. Can you explain to me what that is?
Exit strategy, you gotta make sure I'm making sure all my debt's paid for that business when I'm done. I'm make sure all my employees, I don't owe none of my employees any wages during that time. Insurances are still current. You may want to keep your insurance good for at least another year for the business, just to make sure nothing else comes up that pertains to the business during that time. Mm-hmm. So you pull up what pertains to your specific business. If it's food, you definitely got to keep your insurance in place for a little while longer afterwards. Did I really, am I leaving because it wasn't profitable anymore? You got to ask yourself those questions, and so you can provide the answers to your tax person when they ask you, or your lawyer when they ask you, okay, so how are you planning on, what do you do with what your plan is for all the stuff that you have? Mm-hmm. Are you selling it? Are you storing it? Are you donating it? That all has to be put in place.
Okay. Anything else that we might want to cover about going into a business? What are the sacrifices and the benefits of owning your own?
Definitely, you will have sacrifices. If you have kids, you got to be able to be ready that, you're not going to make it to all their events. And make sure your kids understand that. I involve my kids in my business. They do work. Mm-hmm. So they understand that sometimes I miss a couple things, but I try really, my wife and my staff support. I usually don't miss much. What I think I do a lot of driving because of that. I'll drive across town to catch a track meet or a cross country meet or singing or a band concert. And so far I've incorporated myself. I'm actually doing business with their schools, so I'm able to actually be at the school sites now doing.
That's cheating a little bit, but yeah, it works.
It works.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see that. That would definitely work.
And as you grow, you're gonna find, for us, as we grow, we look for a location, that's gonna be closer to home. For me, I want to be closer to home. So as we look to grow, we're trying to look for a venue for us to be more close to our house. So if we have to take care of our kitchen or our food truck, it'll be easier access to run from home. Right now, I'm going 30 minutes away just to run to my kitchen. So,
what are the most popular businesses right now to start up?
Startup, really, you're looking at food trucks. For food trucks are very popular. Coffee houses are really easy because those are not done just through the health department, but they're done through the Michigan Department of Agriculture. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say bars anymore because liquor license is pretty expensive to get. But people not doing any sit down restaurants right now.
Okay. So what about and a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll cut lawns. Is that something that
lawn service is popular? What else is popular right now? Deliveries services, delivering various different services all over the state. People are having those kind of businesses going on.
Is there a website or someplace they can go to get a list of different types of startups that may be popular or coming up?
Your local counties or the Small Business Association for the state, they'll give you some ideas on what's going on around the state.
Okay. Now, I know when we were in business, but see, we were a technical business when I did it with my brother and my father, and basically we had a lot of computers, people with computer experience who had a lot of expertise in graphics. And
IT is still always going to be on top of the IT and engineering.
So what we had to do in order to determine salaries, we actually went out and surveyed different places to find out what the average salary was. so we know what to pay. Now, how did you decide what to pay your employees? I mean, what was
I asked around. I asked a lot of the food truck operators and caterers around town what they're kind of basing it off of. They gave us, it's like, we're pretty much using this one rate. And I was like, well, we utilize that. And my staff does get tip wages, so they get to also keep their tips on top of it.
So basically, then you relied on other people in the industry that you talked to?
I did.
Are there organizations out there that will help people get started and give them advice?
There are organizations. I can't think off the top of my head right now. There are quite a few. There are some nonprofits in Detroit and Oakland County that help you start up. I know for Farmington Hills, the Greater Farmington Chamber of Commerce, they assist any businesses in that area with startups.
So in other words, in whatever community I'm in, I should check with the Chamber of Commerce and see what they have to help you get starting your own business.
Yep, I would definitely do that.
Is that rewarding? Is that something? So if you're serious about doing a business, I guess the first thing I need to do is get a job to get my finances straight. Right?
Yes, get a job. Check out for grants and low interest loans out there. And
where do I find these grants at?
Same thing with your different counties. Your counties also the county you're in. Your county, the county that you're in, is trying to get your business to open up in their county.
Okay.
So there'll be resources in that specific county's website to find you something.
So if I'm in Oakland County, go to Wayne.
Go to Oakland County site, and they give you various options, financial options, and actually business startup options.
And the same thing with Wayne County.
Same thing with Wayne County.
What about large cities? Do they have their own websites to help businesses get started?
Large cities do have their own. So Detroit has a website on there. If you want to do business in their city, what you can do.
And help you get started.
Help you get started.
Okay. Are there zoning laws that you have to pay attention to based on your business?
Based on your business, you got to reach out to the zoning laws.
And where do you find that information at?
For the specific cities.
So go to the city.
So it's Farmington. If it's Oakland County, you're in the county, you got to go to Farmington Hills and see what their specific zoning rules are for any location that you want to be at.
What about someplace like Southfield?
Same thing. You go to the city of Southfield site and say, hey, I want to open this particular business. They'll tell you, well, you can't do it in this area right here because it's not zoned for that. You'd have to go to the city council to get it rezoned for your specific. Okay. Like I may open a restaurant. If I open a restaurant and I need I don't want to put in a walk-in refrigerator inside, which would cost $50,000 to do. I may choose a route of getting a exterior refrigeration with a trailer. We call it trailer. So you get a trailer and build a refrigerator out of it, but outside. But I would have to get permission from the city to build it outside of the building. Get it be a refrigerator sitting outside,
which saves you money.
Which would save the business almost $40,000 by building one.
Okay. Anything else we need to go over?
Shipping. I wouldn't say trailer. Shipping containers.
Shipping containers.
Shipping containers. Taking a shipping container and making a refrigerator out of it, exterior refrigerator out of it.
I've also heard that people take shipping containers now and make little, what they call them, small homes, tiny
They're
homes.
currently a batch of small homes in Detroit made out of shipping containers. They're the exact length and width of 2 or 3 shipping containers, maybe 6.5 feet in width.
Okay, so we learned a little bit there too. So basically, then what you're looking at is first do your research and your best resources online.
Yes, utilize resources online. Make sure you're using specific government sites, whether it be the county, the cities, or the federal government sites. Don't try to use too many. If you find a nonprofit site, make sure they're vetted first with the Better Business Bureau before you utilize their services.
So what about? I'm sorry, something in my eye. But okay, so if they do that, then that's probably one of your best to go. Now, the one thing that I was told was, and tell me how true that is whatever business you want to go into, get a job in that area first to see how successful business is ran, and work your way up to see how it. I mean, how valid is that?
That's valid. You got to see where you fit.
Okay.
I've worked still in food services to this day.
Okay.
I'm more in the administration portion of it, but it still gives me continued insight in what I'm doing in my personal business.
Okay, there you have it. If you have any specific questions about businesses, how to get started in the business, and if you need to do any, like that, then I would advise you to go ahead and get started. So this is a very broad topic to talk about that we couldn't cover in 15, 20 minutes. So if you have any specific questions that you'd like to have answered about starting the business or it has to do with business, go to our website, Life in Focus with Bill Pyatt. Drop your question in our box, and we will get back to you with answers at a later show. Have a blessed day, and good night.
I'm turning